I've only been bringing really old stuff to read the last little while. I thought I'd keep that tradition and bring something even older that you haven't heard before. And then I do have some new stuff as well. This first piece, though, was interesting to return to today as I was digging through things, because there was a time in my life where I was told I'd never have kids. And you all know now, at least those of you that know me, I have a beautiful 18-month-old daughter. And so I hadn't thought about this poem in a long time before stumbling back across it today as I was flipping through folders. Never. More than 5,000 foster children go missing each year, lost in the labyrinth of IDC and Child Protective Services. And the number of children missing from their own homes and families across the USA is probably double that, triple even. Just last week in the town over, a little girl snatched from her own backyard, stolen, stripped, and sexed in her neighbor's basement, 5 years old, 5 years old. And I think of you, the unborn ones, all your potential that somehow seems to float between him and me, a part of you and each of us, our possible children. And I think you are safer wherever you are, in that place of existing and not existing. And I think I do not want to explain preemptive strikes, genocide, shock and awe in Lebanon or Syria or, God forbid, our own great country. I do not want to see the black and white backsides of milk cartons in your lunchboxes, tell you why you cannot talk to strangers, examine your candy on Halloween night. But then, last week, when the doctor told me my uterus was not right, not good, would never cradle one of you, I cried in the parking lot for over an hour and mourned the loss of what I never wanted, never had, never could. And then newer stuff. This piece is a sestina, and the risk of reading a sestina is that I think they actually work much better on paper than they do for an open mic. So just so you have some comprehension or background, a sestina is a form poem. It's a traditional type of poetry. There are 36 lines, and it utilizes 6 words in a formulaic reading that have to be placed in certain places. And this begins with an epigraph from James Lovelock, who was a brilliant scientist. It's called Considering the Mojave. Sadly, it's much easier to create a desert than a forest. James Lovelock. Maybe, but I question the assumption, finding it difficult to look at the desert and believe that a slot canyon, an Indo-Hayek basin, or a freestanding wind-warped arch rising like a sentinel in the bright Mojave were anything easy for any god to formulate. Perhaps it's pugnacious to ask, but couldn't Lovelock formulate a more accurate reflection, finding the same exactness in an ecosystem bright with Joshua trees, and believe it a historic wonder, the creation of an eon that arches into the early Proterozoic and extends throughout the Great Basin? Surely such history, such geologic preciseness overshadows a basin of trees that can burst again and again in flame and still formulate itself in leafy green rebirth, a winged phoenix rising in an arch every 100 years or so. While in the Mojave they are finding metamorphic minerals and textures in rocks they believe to be 1.4 billion years old. A bright spot in my argument, though I grant that Lovelock is bright, much brighter than I, whose bathroom basin served as a breeding ground for salt crystals and sea monkeys, the extent I believe that I ever went to when asked to formulate anything that resembled a scientific finding, opposed to the man who harnessed a radioactive arch and invented the microwave. Nothing to arch an eyebrow at, and surely such a bright man was being more philosophical than literal, and I am only finding offense in a comment as shallow as an apple's basin, because the desert helped formulate my being, brought me into myself, made me believe again in things I didn't even know I once believed. When I lay curled beneath the hot sun, the arch of my back against the cracked chips of dried mud, trying to formulate my thoughts, for the first time seeing all of my emptiness bright before me, reflected in the full emptiness of the Mojave Basin, and for the first time seeing what was really there, finding I could believe in a rebirth and a bright resurrection all at once, arms arched to the sky, my soul an empty basin waiting to be filled and formulated, looking for sanctuary, and for the first time, finding it. And this last piece is still a work in progress, so the newest of the new that I've brought in lately. In the garden. Curled in on themselves, the vines of garden peas loop and lie in a labyrinth of glistening green, white petal accents here and there. The light of late August falls across carefully tended rows, tomatoes casting long shadows over spinach, broccoli and cauliflower blooming against the dark earth. This is it. This is the year I get it all back. 2 long winters and springs with either too much or not enough water, hours spent digging, plowing it all over and under, looking for the right combinations of soil and seed and sand. But this time, it's going to be perfect. The way it was when I was 6 and 8 and 11, this year it will be mine again. Just like it was when my mother's blackberry kisses stained my forehead as I buried my face against her dirt-stained apron, breathing in the smell of the dried milk burst from corn kernels. Nature's candy. That's what my father called them, the vegetables we grew. Corn and snow peas, striped zucchini, and cucumbers too, which he kept in a box beside him in his pickup, where he ate so many one summer that the acid from their skins ate a hole in the lining of his stomach, the same way that cigarette smoke ate holes in my mother's lungs, and the tomato worms chewed through garden leaves. As a girl then, it didn't matter. What do children know of longing and disappointment, of broken vines and broken bodies, of harvest and winter and aging? There is only this. Lying between the rows of garden peas, fingers plucking a single pod, cracking it open to reveal the 6 or 7 kernels lined up with the precision we so desperately search for, and lifting one bit at a time to our lips the same way I do now, years from those summers, where the sweet pop of the taste tingles in your mouth, and you no longer hear the children crying in the distance, no longer wait for the husband to come, no longer anticipate September. There is nothing but just this soft time, where it is right. Long fingers of sun curling along the pea plant vines, where more pods wait to be popped, and the moment will carry you on until morning.